Welcome to the very first Stone Man podcast. Today we'll be diving deep into the topic of relaxation theory. So relaxation theory comes from the internal work of the Taoist tradition. Today we'll be learning how to relax deeply into our body and release all of the tension to allow the energetic channels to fully open. It's commonly said that only when relaxed will all the chi channels be open. So before we, talk about the practice of relaxation theory, it's important to be acquainted with the what's called in the Taoist tradition the three foundations, sanben. And these three foundations, we can visualize them as a triangle, 3 points of a triangle, and this triangle represents the complete spectrum of a human being. On one point of the triangle, we have the material aspect of our being called Jīng, right? And so the material aspects we can consider to be liquid, right, and chemical. The body, right, has various compartments in which biochemical reactions are taking place throughout the entire day, right? So our material foundations of who we are, right, are the hormones coursing through our blood, our very material self. And so beyond our material self, right, we also have an energetic aspect to our being, right? And this energetic aspect is typically described as being electrical, right? And so when you think about chi energy, it's very important to think about building potential, electrical potential, or building capacity, right? And once capacity has been built, right, energy can circulate through a circuit, right? And that's what the body is on a very fundamental level. It's a circuit. And there are resistors on that circuit blocking the full flow of that energy. So this relaxation practice is very much about locating those resistors in the body and slowly beginning to untangle those resistors. So we have the material aspect Jīng, we have the energetic aspect Qi, and finally the most rarefied. So if we were to think of the complete expression of a person as having density, right? The material aspect is the most dense quality of the human being, right? And then we have the kind of middle layer of energy and right, like electrical potential and our magnetic field and all of these things. And the final aspect, the final dimension, so to speak, the most rarefied, the lightest, right, is this vibrational aspect of the spirit described as Shén, right? So the interplay of these three elements of our material aspect, Jīng, our energetic aspect, Qi, our vibrational aspect, Shén, if we can tap into these three qualities and constantly revisit their relationship to each other, when one of these pillars of the triangle, one of these points of the triangle becomes deficient, it's the other two pillars that have to sacrifice aspects of themselves in order to reestablish, so to speak, an equilibrium, right? So we might notice that when our mental and state of energy, right? When we talk about our vibrational aspect, it's very much our state of mind, right? So when our spirit of vitality, when our state of mind is in the gutters, it's low and we're constantly criticizing ourselves, or we're wrapped around very complex kind of draining emotions, right? Like we feel our energetic aspects getting drawn in, being depleted as a result of this emotional turmoil, right? So there's a relationship between all of these things. Likewise, if I exhaust my very basic material aspects, right? If I'm not getting the right kind of rest, if I'm not getting the right kind of fuel, if I'm not taking care of basic physical requirements, right? My energy, the quality and the quantity of the energy that I have in a given day decreases, right? So all of these three, my material aspect of who I am, right? And this can almost be also considered like our primal, our animalistic, right? Like our very basic drives and needs, right? We have this material, animalistic aspect to our being, and we have an energetic aspect that is more subtle, right? And manipulation of this subtle energetic aspect, right, is really the foundation of Qigong. And once we have kind of the ability to manipulate, right, our internal flow of energy, we can start to refine the quality of that energy. And that's what a big part of relaxation theory is changing the quality of our internal energy and noticing the distribution of that energy. So relaxation theory, it begins with this notion of Diào. Diào, regulate the body. Diào coming from the Chinese of to tune, right? As how we would tune into a musical scale, right? So it's to finely tune and adjust the body so that the internal energy, right, and the energy distribution, the quality of the energy, the intensity of the energy, the flow of the energy is fluid, right, and it's smooth and it's soft and it's uninterrupted. So regulating the body, Diào, before we initiate any kind of a contemplative practice, any kind of a movement-based practice, it allows us to really prime ourselves to make the most of the experience. And once we initiate with a body in which the qi energy inside is regulated, the quality of the movement and the intention behind the movement has really a much more refined quality. So the next notion, as we move into this, another, saying in the Chinese system is Shēnxīn Pínghéng, right? Shēnxīn, body and heart are Pínghéng, mutually balanced, right? So Shin in the Eastern tradition, right, can be is often called the heart mind, right? In Japanese culture, they use the phrase Kokoro, and Kokoro is much more inclusive, right? Kokoro describes the sensations and the feelings of the heart along with the emotional state of the body, right? So this is very much about how can I balance the physical and the emotional state of the body so that these two parts are not working against each other, right? But that they're actually tuned in and equally balanced, as if on a scale, right? And there's a real sense of quiet, right? And so now, as we talk about diving into the practice, right? So the kind of the intention of relaxation theory boils down to this very basic understanding that only when fully relaxed will all the qi channels in the body open, right? So relaxation is a way of allowing energy to flow, right? So we can bring in relaxation theory at any moment of our life, right? And we can apply relaxation theory through these practical steps, right? And so that's what this is about today. So the practice of moving into relaxation. So I'm going to go through with it. I'm going to go through with it with you step by step, and we'll kind of have this checklist of how to move deeper and deeper into the stages of relaxation. So the very first step involves bringing our mental energy, mental capacity, our mental awareness, right, into our body, right? So bring the mind back to the body, right? And once the mind is attached onto the body, right, because the tendency is for the mind to scatter, The mind almost behaves like a bag of marbles, right? If the marbles are all in the bag, the focus is contained, the concentration is contained, the awareness is single-minded, right? But as soon as I take the bag and I spill out the marbles, and my mind is scattered in all of these different directions, right? I can feel when my mind leaves my body and goes to a different physical location or goes through a different place in time, right? So the key thing about relaxation theory is to be present, to bring the awareness back to the body first and foremost every time, and to constantly revisit this. Am I in my body, or am I away from my body, right? And once the mind is in the body, the second step is to attach our awareness, our attention, our focus onto the Shàng Dan Tian, the upper Dan Tian, right? The sometimes called the third eye in the yogic traditions, right? So by bringing our focused attention into this area, we're taking the mental energy and giving it a point of attachment, right? Being able to attach the mind onto a physical location is a critical skill across so many different athletic and martial modalities, right? So especially in our time, in our society, people have really lost this ability to focus their attention onto a singular point. So once my general attention and awareness is on my body, I kind of harness that focus and I concentrate it into a single point, and that single point is on that third eye, right? And once I have this steady, concentrated mind, right, the next thing is to release that concentration, but to keep the mental awareness in the body, right? So we brought the mind from outside to inside. We focused our mental concentration, and now we have to release that focus to get deeper into the relaxation. So in order to release the mental concentration of fixed attention onto a singular point, we start going into this art of noticing the breath, right? And because noticing the breath, once our mind is in our body, we can really begin to do work with the breath and breathing. There's a common saying, Xin Xi Xiang Yi, right? The heart and the breath are mutually dependent, mutually related. So how we breathe often reveals our emotional state, right? So being able to notice the pattern of the breath, the cadence of the breath, the quality of the breath will help you tap into your emotional body, your emotional aspects, and start to disentangle them. So we've released we brought our mind back to our body. We brought our point of concentration to the third eye. We released the mental concentration. We begin to notice the breath and the pattern of the breathing. And now we're kind of systematically moving down the body, down the center line of the body in this meditation. So the next location of kind of mental awareness and that kind of blends in with the breath, and what is the purpose of breathing and how can we use breathing to get us deeper into relaxation theory, we kind of have to touch upon what is the middle dantian, right? So like just below the lungs, right? On the axis of the solar plexus, right? We have this, the dantian, right? And is understood like to behave as a battery, right? So we have three dantians in the body. There's the lower dantian, the middle dantian, and the upper dantian. All of these batteries, so to speak, have electromagnetic potential, and they can build up capacity. So internally, a good way to visualize this, right, is as the breath passes through these points and as our mental concentration fixes on these dantian centers, we can envision, right, that they brighten, that they glow a little bit brighter, that they have an incandescent quality, just how like the current, right, that passes through an incandescent light bulb produces this quality of luminescence. And the more intense the current, the higher the magnitude of the current, the more intense the luminosity, right? So as we're breathing, we're charging these batteries. We're building up our luminosity. We are energizing our magnetic field, right? So the middle dantian is the home of fire qi in the body. And fire qi is associated with emotional feelings, right? It is energy that is coming from the external environment. And when we take in food, our body has to invest energy to break down that food in order to get to the energy of that food, right? So the qualities of our food and the quality of this fire qi, right, like has this ability to disrupt our natural rhythm, right? So our original energy that circulates through our body is a water qi type of energy, right? And this whole notion of water and fire, and that there are kind of impure types of energy, and that there are more refined qualities of energy. This is another central topic in Qigong. We want to eliminate excess heat in the body, because excess heat is linked with inflammation, it's linked with degenerative disease, where we want to get the body to the right conditions. And so the breath and the lungs are associated with the element of metal, right? And metal, right, is able to rapidly release heat. So the breath is thought as one of the most powerful ways to cool down the body, to change the quality of the energy internally from a fire quality to this water quality, right? So we talk about this water quality is kan, right? It's able to cool the body. It makes the body more yin. The other quality is li, and this comes from the theory of 8 trigrams, right? The 8 fundamental elements in opposition that form the Bagua. And so li is in opposition with kan, water is in opposition with fire. Fire is a heat. Fire heats the body, and it makes the body more yang, right? So the breath in this practice, we want to visualize this manic heated energy, this manic heated li energy, right? And we want to think of our breath as this neutralizing, calming presence that's able to change the quality of the internal energy, that's able to make it less chaotic, that's able to organize it, refine it, cool it, relax it, right? And so there's this whole notion of using the breath in order to go deeper into how we listen to the energy circulation inside of the body. In fact, it's said, "nei shi fan ting," right? Look internally and listen inwardly, and have the breath be that radar, that sonar that allows you to see inside of yourself. So in the one sense, we've let's kind of recap. We've brought our mind from outside onto our body, right? And once we have our mind on our body, we concentrated our mental awareness onto one point. We release that point of mental concentration by beginning to tap into the quality of the breath. We start to use breathing to change the quality of the qi energy inside of us. We go from being manic and hyperstimulated, right, from this yang energy, to being able to really cool down our energy signature, right? To cool down the energy signature, to restore calm and peace, and center-mindedness, right? To be in the center of the body. And so as we dive deeper into the breathing, because it's so essential, there's this visualization, right? There's this model, this image I want you to keep into your mind. It's called guanqi, right? And so the breathing is like pulling a string, right? Like starting with a short string, and gradually each breath trying to lengthen the breath and to pull, right, to visualize my breath as a string that's elongating and stretching longer and longer and longer. And so the breath has these qualities of Jīng Shenchang, right? Like the breath is calm and silent. The breath is slender and deep. The breath is long. So the qualities of this string, right, and breathing all the way from the lower dantian, as we initiate the breath, it doesn't begin in the lungs. It doesn't even begin in the diaphragm. It begins in the abdominal muscles, right, that create a hydraulic pull onto the cavity and increase the volume, right? So the pull, that hydraulic pull, comes from the muscles around the dantian, right? It comes from that dantian, the lower dantian center. So our breath should feel like a string that reaches all the way down, right, below the navel, almost about 2 inches below the navel, onto this battery, right, onto this lower dantian battery, which is the main area that the body stores capacity. And it's the location where movement is initiated, right, from the body, from the ground, through the pelvis, directed out of the extremities. And so, talking about the qualities of the breath, we said calm, silent, slender, deep, long. Also, we have yo, yun, huan, mian, right? Continuous, uniform, slow, soft. So as we get deeper into the trance of our relaxation theory, the mind is clear, right? And we can visualize almost against this like infinite black expanse, that there's just this white line that we are able to shape and grow and manipulate using our breath, right? And that we can feel this line lengthening, right? And this beam of light radiating through us as we're breathing, right? And moving upwards, right? And moving downwards. And so once we have really begun to relax the body, and we're focused on the breathing, and we're getting deeper into the trance of relaxation theory, and the chi channels are starting to open up, now is the time to relax the extremities of the body, right? So we've sort of primed the body at this point to become in a very, very relaxed state. So this next level of relaxation, relaxing the extremities, it begins at the toes. And so from the toes, feeling any place that is holding, right, that has constriction, and almost erasing it, washing it away, right, and just using our awareness to feel into that part of our body, from the toes, moving up to the feet, through the ankles, moving up the length of the mid-leg to the knee, all the way up, right, the thigh into the hips. And there's this sensation, as we relax these areas systematically, that the body is disappearing. And so once we kind of do this tactic to make the lower body transparent, right, to make the lower body disappear, right, it almost begins to feel like we're floating. And this process of the extremities are transparent will eventually be integrated into this idea of wuji, no extremities. So I've relaxed my legs and my hips. I've relaxed my arms and my shoulder and my scapulas, right? Systematically moving through the fingers, the wrist, the elbow, upstream, distally towards the body, right? And so Once we've relaxed the extremities, which are namely, muscle tissue, right? Releasing the tension in the muscle tissue, we begin to use the qi to listen to the qualities of our 5 most vital organs. And so this is called wu qi chao yuan. Lead the qi, lead the 5 qi, the 5 qis back to their origin. And the 5 qis refer to the 5 yin organs of the lungs, the heart, the kidney, the liver, and the spleen. So we began this podcast discussing this concept of Diào Shén, regulate the body, right? So now we're talking about Wu Qi Chao Yuan. The body is in a relaxed and regulated state, and the extremities are relaxed. Now we can feel the current of energy around our internal organs. And so the sequence of how to go about this is to first feel the quality of energy in the lungs. The lungs are elastic, right? They expand and contract. And this quality of motion allows us to really feel into the energetic qualities of the lungs, right? So as we're breathing, I'm listening. How do my lungs feel, right? What is the emotional content in my lungs? And also just how is energy circulating in my lungs, right? Are my breaths short? Am I wheezing, right? What's happening in my lungs, and how can I fine tune and adjust the energy in that area, right? And once we feel into our lungs, the next easiest organ to feel into is the heart, right? The heart also has this quality of motion. It's beating, it has a rhythmical quality, but there are also huge volumes of liquid going through the heart. All of the blood is going through the heart. So the heart, the vascular system, the pulsation of the heart is also very important to tap into and to feel the rhythm and the cadence of the heart. So once we've relaxed the energy in the lungs, we've relaxed the energy in the heart, we can move on to trying to locate and distinguish the energy moving through our kidneys. So our kidneys are a little bit harder to sense, but again, kidneys are hollow organs, right? And so there are huge volumes of liquid moving through our kidneys. So it's this current of liquid that allows us to feel the cortex, so to speak, of the organ itself, right? Because there's motion internally in that organ, we can feel what is the quality of that organ, right? How does this, my 2 kidneys, how do I, if I really focus and I feel the motion of liquid inside of my kidneys, how does that feel, right? How does the energetic distribution feel inside of the kidneys, right? So lungs, heart, kidney, next is the liver. The liver is a large organ, right? It doesn't have nearly the same volume of liquid flowing through it at the same rate that the heart or the kidneys have, but the liver is large and dense, right? And if we can feel into the blood flow of the liver, of this very large organ, right, that detoxifies us, if we can tap into that, we can feel the distribution of energy around the liver, right? And the hardest one to tap into, and the last of the 5 yin organs, is the spleen, right? And so the spleen is very close to the liver in proximity. And so listening to a smaller organ and making sure that that organ is balanced and harmonized with all of the other organ systems, right? And feeling, right, the final sensation, right? As we come into this, it's very hard to imagine I'm going to fine tune every single one of these organs. But in the beginning, just feeling like all of my organs internally are able to relax and release, that the organs themselves hold a quality of tension, right? That the organs themselves have these tonal qualities, and that the tonality in the entire body has to release, right? In order for the qi channels to really open and for energy to move through the body without restriction. So we've talked about bringing the mind back to the body, right? Releasing mental attention, really like using the breath as a technology to change the internal quality of the energy, right? Systematically releasing the extremities until they disappear, right? And the last, kind of the most, the deepest layer of this, once we've gotten through the viscera and the organs and the muscle tissue, right? Like now we want to penetrate to the core foundation of the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is the information pathway that relays information, right, from the center of the body, from the brain and the brainstem outwards, right? And even sensory information from the outside world travels along this information pathway through up to the brain, right? So this, our spinal cord, right, and the vagus nerve it's kind of like this fiber optic cable, right? And there are locations, right, in the central nervous system, in the spine, in the jaw, in the various attachments in which those fiber optic cables, so to speak, are disfigured, right? They're wrapped up, they're bound onto something else, right? Like that information pathway has these resistors alongside of it. So the deepest part of relaxation theory is to feel the central nervous system release this almost this buzzing quality, right? Like to allow the deepest part of yourself to finally let go, right? And to feel those locations on that information pathway, and to reorganize those fiber optic connections, right? So that once the information goes in, you have the technology of all of those fiber optic cables conveying this clear, crisp image on the other side, right? And that other side is our state of mind, right? Our peace and tranquility, right? Our deep relaxation. And so finally we arrive at this notion of wu ji, right? Like the extremity, there is a sensation of having no extremities, right? And we've taken these kind of fundamental variations, right? So it's important to understand in the theory of Bagua, we start with 2 poles. Those 2 poles then become 4 points, right? Those 4 points then become 8 points, right? So everything is based on this system of 2 to the power of n, right? So in the first, we have yin and yang. Then we have the fundamental directions. And once we have these 4, then those 4 can be broken into 8, right? These 8 variations, right, represent how the diversity of life began at one origin and diversified and expanded outwards, right? So Wuji is taking our mental awareness from being kind of broken into all of these different, these 8 elements, and tracing back to the origin, right? So the 2 poles of yin and yang in the body return back to the origin, right? And this is sometimes described as jianjing liaoran, right? Like I see clearly what nature is, and I understand what it really is about, right? To see one's nature, to see nature from this point of clarity, and to understand our position and our role to play in it, right? And so this was the last point of the relaxation theory, and yeah, I'll cover one more time. We'll kind of do a very brief review before we end the podcast here. And so again, we began speaking about the very first element of the practice is to constantly bring the mind back to the body, right? And then once the mind is in the body, to attach the mind onto one specific location, right? And that location was the third eye, Shàng Dan Tian, upper Dan Tian, right? And once we have that concentration and we're in our body, we need to release the concentration in order to deepen the relaxation. And so to release the concentration, we begin to notice our breath. And it's in the process of noticing our breath that we begin to kind of regulate our emotional feelings, right? Using this theory of Kan and Li, balancing the fire and the water qualities of the body, and using the lungs, right? The metallic elemental property of the lungs to release excess yang heat, excess yang mania out of the body, right? And to really fine-tune the energy internally. And so we talk about the breath having the quality of nei shi fan ting, see and listen internally, right? Using the breath. We talked about what that means using guanqi, this string breathing, pulling the string. We talked about the qualities of the breath, being calm and silent, slender, deep, long, continuous, uniform, slow, and soft. Once the breath is regulated and we're able to really visualize this guanqi, string breathing, right? And we're using our breathing and our breath as tingqi, right? To like a sonar, to listen not only internally, but to register everything happening in our surroundings, using the breath as that sonar, as this intelligent wave, right? That sends out information and also brings back that information. And so once the breath is regulated, we talk about relax the extremities and the body disappears. Starting at the toes, the most distal, right? Starting at the most distal location of the extremities and moving proximal towards the center of the body, systematically allowing those joint systems to release and almost disappear, become transparent. Once the extremities are gone, we focus our internal awareness onto the viscera, the 5 organs. Wu qi chao yuan, we return the qi back to their 5 origins in these organs, and we regulate the energy circulating through those organs, and we feel the emotional states and the tonality that's held inside of these critical organs, right? And once our viscera is relaxed, we really go into the most central part of the body, right? Feeling the core of the brainstem and the nervous system, and feeling this kind of fiber optic pathway, and allowing the kinks and the kind of displacements or the resistors, so to speak, in that electrical circuit, right? That crucial electrical circuit, we slowly breaking down, locating those resistors, taking that resistance out of the body, cleaning up the quality of that information pathway, so that when information does come in through our senses into our brainstem, we're able to have very crisp and sharp sensory experience, right? And because that pathway is so clear going in, it's also very clear coming out, and we're able to initiate and execute movements at another level of quality, at another level of precision, right? At another level of performance that's just simply not available without integrating relaxation theory. And so once we're kind of at the very core of this, we have this sensation of wu ji, right? I have no extremities. The 2 opposing energies, fundamental opposing energies of my body have returned back to the origin. My whole existence is a singular quality, right? And I'm able to feel into the singularity, into the original breath, into the primal origin, so to speak. And once we have this experience of extremely deep relaxation, the quality of our perception changes, and we're able to enter a state of jianjing lao ran, right? And to see nature and to perceive it clearly for what it really is. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me, and that will mark the end of the very first Stone Man podcast. Thank you for listening.